Welcome back to the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, coming to you live here from Glasgow. Over the past few days, we've covered so much. We've had Finance Day, we've had, yesterday was Energy Day, and today is all about youth and public empowerment. Throughout today, we'll be chatting to leaders, advocates, climate ambassadors, everyone about the issues around youth and youth voice empowerment and the need for public empowerment in order to have real climate action. Of course, it's also Ocean Day today, which is brilliant because we've got a number of people speaking today on the importance of oceans. We've just heard a really important project about our reefs and nature-based solutions being the key to deliver the race to resilience that we hear so much about securing 4 billion people to be resilient by 2030. But what does that mean? What does that involve? And what lessons can we learn from the projects that have been put in place? Lots of other exciting projects coming up as well, and discussions around that. And we're very lucky to have Racquel Moses, Chief Executive Officer of Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, here with us live at COP TV. Good morning.
Morning.
Is it morning? Good afternoon? Who knows? Still morning?
It's still morning. Well, it's midday. Yeah. Good midday.
Yeah, exactly. How are you? How's your COP26 been?
It's been phenomenal. It's been absolutely tremendous for us, and we are so glad that we're getting to engage with so many of the countries that we work for and haven't seen ever.
Yeah.
So this has been really, really great. We're also excited about a lot of the large-scale commitments that have been made, especially by the private sector. We think that is so very important, that the private sector support the climate action and the climate finance, especially, that needs to take place.
There's lots of buzz here at COP26, and reading about the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, fascinating stuff. But for people who are watching who may not have heard of it or know much about it, can you explain more about what you do and what it actually is?
Sure. So the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator was an idea by 3 prime ministers in the Caribbean, together with Richard Branson, who decided that something needed to be done to create a climate smart zone in the Caribbean. So what we do is we work to aggregate projects on behalf of the region. We represent 28 countries, and for those countries, we help them build economies of scale in their projects. We help bring climate finance to their projects. We help bring innovation and private sector to the table as well. Wow. So the objective of the accelerator is to make sure that we're advancing projects at scale to be able to build our resiliency and achieve our Paris commitments.
So what are the ambitions of the, we talked about SIDSs or SIDS here today quite a lot, but what are the ambitions of this, and what do you see being the key challenges to actually get to realise those ambitions?
So one of our great ambitions is 90% renewable energy for all, and at the moment as a region on average we're at 17%, and we have standout countries like Costa Rica who are at 100% already. So what we, in terms of the goals that we've set for Paris, the goals get us to about 57%. We think that we should be at 65% by 2030, and we'd love to see us get to 90%. But what we know is that it'll take about $130 billion to get the SIDS in the Pacific and the Caribbean to 90% by 2040. And in order to do that, we need to unlock more climate finance.
Why is it so important to address the challenges in SIDS? I mean, these are places that are hit first and foremost by the impacts of climate change. Why is that so relevant?
We have an outsized impact of climate change on us. Between 1966 and 2015, Paris Agreement, there have been 782 climate-related disasters affecting over 50 million people, resulting in 18,000 deaths and $43 billion in damage. That we cannot continue to sustain this level of onslaught. We were already vulnerable before this started.
I mean, huge figures, really hard to wrap your head around. Kind of being here at COP26, how is that different to at the Paris Agreement, and what kind of changes have you seen between then and now?
I think what we want to see more than anything else is more momentum towards action. I appreciate the commitments as they're being made, but unless there is greater action taking place, and so what we'd like to see is a month out from COP for every single commitment, 10 milestones as to what will be achieved by COP27, so that there's clarity and measurement. And we can say, okay, in February of 2022, where are we? Are we ahead or behind in terms of the commitments that we've been made? Because everything that we plan to deliver by 2030 needs to start happening now. We don't have time to sit and say, oh, well, we'll start that in 2025. That's not how it is. To make the commitments that have been set for 2030, the work should have already begun. So let's tell us how you plan to meet that, so that at COP27 we're looking at, okay, 10 countries are ahead, 14 countries are behind, but we understand how we close those gaps.
It's really interesting to hear so many speakers the past week talking about that transparency and accountability that is needed along the way. You mentioned finance earlier. What needs to happen to scale climate finance for SIDS?
There are three main things that we need. We need certainly access to finance, just in general, but we also need access to finance to build capacity. We need access to concessionary finance, and we need just more commitments to be able to close those gaps. We don't have the fiscal space to be able to take on additional debt. So unless there is more philanthropic money, grant money, concessionary finance, then we don't have the capacity to close the gaps that already exist to be able to pay for the adaptation that we already need.
From what you've seen at COP26, how does that fit into what you do need, and based on what you've heard so far?
We're hearing some of the right things, but the fact that the developed nations have not yet been able to close the $100 billion gap set at the Paris Agreement is incredibly disappointing. But it's an opportunity for them to become the heroes of the next series of measured dates. So let's have them meet the commitments, and let's have a lot of that money be free, untethered grant money that can then really be used to support the initiatives of the region.
Absolutely. Of course, it's Oceans Day here. It's a brilliant day. What do you see the role of blue economy in SIDS, net zero transition and building resilience? And why is Oceans Day so significant?
Oceans Day is absolutely paramount because the ocean and healthy oceans serve as a source of our biggest source of our carbon sink that we have. And in addition to sort of cutting the emissions, we need to keep the natural systems that sequester carbon very healthy. So I think Oceans Day is my favorite. But we are bringing innovation to the table. We are seeing all kinds of entrepreneurs do things with like sargassum, with seaweed planting, with coral rehabilitation, and we want to see more of that. But in order to do that, it comes back to the money. We need the money to be able to make it happen. So one of the things that we want to really highlight is the need for more blue entrepreneurs, and we're doing a lot of education around that because a lot of people still need to understand what the blue economy is.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of misunderstanding in the general public about that.
Definitely.
What would be the key message you want decision makers here at COP26 to take from your work?
It is that we are vulnerable and innovative and resilient. We're working on a resilience scorecard. We launched it last week at the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum. It's something that we were working on by the Islands Resiliency Action Challenge. And we want to see that level of innovation, not just across all Caribbean islands or all small island developing or big ocean states. We want to see that as a global measure for adaptation and resilience. And so we're bringing solutions to the table, and that's what we want to see. We want to see a recognition that we are contributing to solutions as much as we are not a contributor to the problem. So all we need is the financing to help support our efforts to be able to help us to do even more.
Can you tell us more about the resilience scorecard, because it's fascinating and multifaceted?
The Resilience Scorecard started as an initiative last year to be able to measure the efforts of resilience that are important to countries. So it's meant not to be a punitive scorecard, but one that can be win-win. So islands identify the areas in which they feel resilient or vulnerable. They identify how important those items are to them. So let's say it's in their energy independence, for example. How much renewable energy have they implemented? How distributed is their grid? How resilient are those systems? And then we can use that scorecard to be able to determine with philanthropists what are some areas that they can invest in to help build resilience, not over one island, but over many islands. The goal for the scorecard team was to get one island to pilot it. We got 5. And we're seeing growing momentum against that, something that is easy to understand, that highlights where countries are either vulnerable or resilient, and where they are resilient, it is an opportunity to attract foreign direct investment because systems are hardened in that particular area. So it's win-win for the countries who identify and can then use that as a tool to attract climate finance.
We've talked today about the race to resilience and this goal of making 4 billion people resilient by 2030. Speaking in timelines, you've mentioned a few of your kind of goals. Are you positive, hopeful about how things are progressing and obviously how this project is gathering so much momentum?
I'm absolutely optimistic because there isn't another option. So we're measuring this COP in degrees of success. And so failure is not an option. And so we are delighted by the level of commitments that we've seen. We're delighted by the announcements and the progress and the commitments, but we need to continue to move faster. I'm a runner, and I'm one of those runners. I don't hit my key pace until I get to like mile 13. And that's okay. But this is the point at which we need to hit our top speed. So I'm encouraged, I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, and this is for us. We are not leaving until we get our objectives met. So it's do or die.
Yeah, absolutely. Strong message there. To finish, kind of for people watching and want to learn more about this accelerator and the project itself, can you tell us where to go, where to learn more from?
Certainly, you can go to CaribbeanAccelerator.org, and that is where you'll find a lot of information about the things that we're measuring, the projects that we have, the folks who are involved, our magnificent partners and supporting infrastructure, the countries that we represent, and there you'll find all of our social media. You can follow us on social media. We want to highlight projects that are taking place in other places. We want to collaborate. We want to find innovations. So please work with us. We absolutely, we're looking we're creating a tribe, a movement, an unstoppable force. And so join us or get run over.
Thank you, Racquel Moses, for coming with us live here at COP TV. It's been lovely having you here.
Thank you so much. Really nice meeting you too.
Thank you. We'll be back later this afternoon, about 4 p.m. We've got lots more exciting speakers joining us today. Remember to head to unfccc.int, that website link, to watch all of the interviews today and catch up on all the live discussions as they're happening inside COP26. And we'll see you later this afternoon.